She accidentally called me while laughing with our mom about how easy it is to use me. What they didn't know is that I was still on the line, listening, recording, and planning my escape. The call came at 11:08 p.m. I was buried in emails, half asleep, nursing the same cup of cold coffee I'd forgotten to reheat 3 times already. When my phone lit up with my sister's name, I smiled before I even answered. Madison never called this late, so it had to be important, or urgent, or maybe she just needed something. That's usually what urgent meant in my family. "Hello," I answered, my voice soft but warm. No response. Just the faint sound of music. Then glasses clinking. Then laughter. I pulled the phone away from my ear and glanced at the screen, still connected. "Hello." I tried again, louder this time. Still nothing. I was just about to hang up when I heard it. My name, spoken like a joke. "Lexi still thinks she's helping us," Madison said, her voice clear as glass over the background noise. I froze. "She is helping us," my mom's voice chimed in, laughing. "She's basically an ATM with a heartbeat." The breath caught in my throat. I didn't move. Couldn't. "She doesn't even question it anymore," Madison added. "I told her rent went up by $200, and she just sent the money the next day." It's pathetic. I sat motionless in my chair, one hand gripping the phone so tight my knuckles ached. Oh, and the utility excuse? That was genius. My brother, Cole, joined in, slurring slightly. "Let's tell her it's short again this month. She always folds." They laughed again, louder this time, louder than the ringing in my ears. In the background, I could hear ice swirling in glasses, the bass line of some party playlist, maybe even the click of high heels. Definitely not the struggling, scraping by family they always claimed to be. I looked around my apartment. 1 bedroom, cracked walls, ancient heater that rattled at night. I'd skipped my last vacation, canceled my gym membership, and declined dinner invites for 3 months, just to help them stay afloat. And here they were, mocking me. "She's not married. No kids. What's she even gonna use her money for?" My mother's voice again, cool and careless. "Yeah," Madison replied. "She should thank us for giving her something to spend it on." That's when it happened. My thumb, on instinct, hit record. Because something inside me snapped. Not like glass, but like a rubber band stretched too far for too long. I wasn't even breathing. They kept talking, joking, toasting. I ended the call slowly, deliberately, like hanging up on someone I used to love. My apartment suddenly felt colder. My chest was heavy, my eyes dry. Not because I wasn't hurt, but because the betrayal was too sharp to cry over yet. I pressed play again. The laughter still hit the same. Only now I wasn't the girl on the other end of the line. Now, I was the one about to take control. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there at the dining table surrounded by unopened bills, half-filled spreadsheets, and reminders of every sacrifice I'd made over the past 5 years. The extra shifts I picked up. The root canal I kept postponing. The weekend trip I canceled last minute when Madison said her car needed urgent repairs. That car was in the background of one of her Instagram posts last week. Parked outside a spa retreat in the mountains. #self-care weekend, the caption read. The same weekend she told me her heating got shut off. I opened my banking app. My hands didn't shake. I am past that now. I started scrolling. Page after page of transfers, utility payments, Zelle receipts. Every dollar I sent them, $200 for groceries, $600 for tuition, $1,500 for rent. Over and over and over. And suddenly I saw it. $92,748.26. That's how much I'd sent in the last 5 years. Almost $100,000. Gone. Not because I was rich, but because I believed them. Because every time they said, "We need you," I showed up. Every single time. I clicked open my calendar app. My birthday last year? Alone. They said they couldn't come. They were tight on money. But that same weekend, Madison posted a photo from a rooftop bar with a caption, "Nothing like celebrating life with the best people." I wasn't in that photo. I never was. And yet, I'd still baked Mom a cake on hers. Still sent flowers to Madison when she got sick. Still wired Cole money when he said his rent check bounced. I was so focused on being the good daughter, the good sister, the helper that I never noticed they only called when they wanted something. Not when I got promoted. Not when I got dumped and cried alone in the parking lot. Not when I needed them. I stood up from the table and walked over to the hallway mirror. My reflection stared back at me, tired, overworked, hair in a bun that hadn't been washed in 2 days. My favorite hoodie stretched thin, dark circles that no cream could hide.
This is what they used.
Not my money.
Not my job. Me.
My heart.
My loyalty.
My belief that family means sacrifice. That night, I renamed the folder on my laptop from Family Budget to Exit Strategy. It was no longer about helping them. It was about saving myself. The invitation came in just like all the others. A text. No explanation. No warmth. Just a date and time. Dinner Sunday, 6 p.m. Bring dessert. Of course. Not how are you? Not thanks for the last rent transfer. Just a reminder that I was expecting. That I would show up. Because I always did. I said yes. But this time, it wasn't because I wanted to belong. It was because I was ready. Sunday arrived too fast, and yet not fast enough. I stood in front of my mirror that afternoon, carefully choosing what to wear. Not my usual faded jeans and worn-out sweater, the ones that made me look appropriately humble.
No.
I chose confidence. Simple black trousers. A crisp blouse. No makeup to hide behind. Just the truth. The lemon cake they liked so much? I brought it again. But this time, it wasn't a peace offering. It was a final courtesy. I parked 3 houses down and walked up slowly, heart steady, mind focused. The porch lights were on. I could hear laughter through the window. Easy, careless laughter. I stepped inside. The house smelled of roast chicken and scented candles. Comfort, warmth. All of it was perfectly staged. Daphne, Madison chirped, too bright, arms wide. Oh my God, that top is so cute on you. She didn't mean it. She never did. Mom appeared next. Air kiss on the cheek, eyes scanning me like a report card. You look tired, sweetheart. Work draining you again? Dad offered his usual grunt from the recliner, eyes barely lifting from the game on TV. And just like that, the performance began. Dinner was served like a ceremony. Dishes passed, stories shared, fake laughs sprinkled in for seasoning. They talked about their lives. Madison's new Pilates class, Cole's friend who got a Tesla, Mom's coworker drama. Not once did anyone ask how I was. Mom was the closest.
She didn't ask.
She expected. She'd start with, "You know I wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious." Then she'd slide in a story. A lump she needed checked. A car repair.
Rent.
Always rent. Rent that somehow kept going up, but only for me. For 5 years, I believed all of it. I thought they loved me. I thought I was being a good daughter, a good sister. But what I really was a paycheck. And I didn't realize it until I saw the choreography. The perfect timing. The exact order. Like clockwork. They knew exactly how to make me fold. But not anymore. Because now I had their script. And I was rewriting the ending.
Dinner was Sunday.
Madison texted me that morning. Mom's making your favorite. Don't be late. She even added a heart emoji. The same girl who called me an ATM with a pulse behind my back now wanted me to smile at her dinner table like nothing happened. I brought wine. A mid-range bottle. Nothing fancy. I didn't want them to think I'd caught on. The house looked exactly the same, except brighter somehow. Fresher paint. New curtains. Mom always said she couldn't afford those extras. But here they were. Soft velvet, gold trim. Madison opened the door, like we were best friends. There she is, my favorite big sister. Her hug was warm, too warm, like she was trying too hard to sell it. Mom stepped out of the kitchen next, apron on, eyes glowing. There's my girl, she said, wiping her hands. We've missed you. Missed me? I was there every month in the form of digital transfers and cleared checks. We sat down at the table. Roasted chicken, creamed spinach, herbed potatoes. Every single dish I loved. It felt like bait. Madison poured the wine and raised her glass. To my family. I smiled. To betrayal, I thought. Not once did anyone mention the sacrifices I'd made to keep that house running. Until, of course, dessert. Mom cleared her throat. So, about rent. There it was. The real reason they'd invited me. The landlord raised it again, she sighed. Another $300. Just awful timing. Caleb's tuition is due. Madison's got car issues. You know how it is. I nodded slowly, sipped my water. Let them keep talking. Let them hang themselves with the rope I had been braiding for months. That's rough, I finally said. So, it went up again? Mom nodded.
Yep.
We can't make ends meet without you.
Funny, I said.
Because I called the landlord yesterday. It only went up to $50.
Silence.
No one breathed. Madison dropped her fork. I pulled out a folded piece of paper from my bag and placed it on the table. The actual rent notice. Black and white. Undeniable. And then I looked up and smiled. Calm, unwavering. Desserts in the kitchen. I thought we could enjoy that before I tell you what's next. I used to think I was imagining things. Maybe I was just too sensitive, too suspicious. But after that phone call, I started looking back. And suddenly, everything made sense. Every crisis. Every unexpected emergency. Every guilt-laced message always came right after my paychecks hit. Always after my bonuses were paid. Almost like they were watching my bank account more closely than I was. I remembered the time I got my first promotion. A $3,000 bonus. That same week, Mom called in tears about needing money for medical tests that couldn't wait. I sent it without blinking. Never asked for proof. Never thought I needed to. And then, days later, she posted a photo at a wine tasting in Napa Valley. I didn't even think to question it back then. I thought maybe someone else had paid. I always gave them the benefit of the doubt. Always.
But now?
Now I could see it for what it was. A pattern. A performance. They had a script. I just didn't know I was the audience. Madison would always open the act. A teary voice message, usually with soft music in the background and just enough static to sound real. Hey, I hate to ask this, but things are really tight right now.
She always said that.
Always. I hate to ask. But she never really hated it. Not when the money showed up the next morning. Then Caleb, my brother, would swoop in a few days later with a casual text. Sis, I'm in a bit of a bind. Can you spot me? No details. Never any plan to pay it back. Just soft reminders that he was still in school, still struggling. But I'd seen his new shoes. The trips. The bar tabs. The poker tournament. The Vegas hotel suite with the mirrored ceilings. I was paying for it all. And I didn't even know. Halfway through dinner, Mom dabbed the corner of her mouth with a napkin and leaned forward. So, the landlord raised the rent again. Right on cue. Another $300, she said, voice gentle. I hate asking, sweetheart, but... I nodded slowly, chewing. Then turned to Madison. Didn't you just go to Mexico last week? Her fork froze. Just for a second. Oh, that wasn't a real trip, she said quickly. A friend paid. I just tagged along. I looked at her bag. Real leather. Prada, same one I'd seen on a fashion site for $1,200. Nice purse. She blushed. It's a fake. Got it from a market. Like $30. I turned to Caleb, who had just walked in. Late as always. Wearing sneakers I knew cost more than my rent. He gave me a chin nod and slumped into a chair.
Hey, sis. Good to see you.
I wondered if he'd say the same if he knew I'd seen the Vegas photos. The hotel suite, the champagne, the girl in his lap. I didn't say anything. Not yet. Because I was still collecting. I watched their faces, their expressions, how they nodded in silent rhythm. Mom's little sigh, Madison's fake guilt, Caleb's tired student act. They didn't know I'd been recording. They didn't know I had screenshots, receipts, bank statements, social posts, timelines. They didn't know I finally saw the pattern. And I wasn't here to eat. I was here to watch them lie to my face and see if they still believed I was too blind to notice. They were wrong. Dinner ended with hugs and leftovers in a plastic container. Thanks for always being there, Mom whispered. I smiled back. Of course. Always. But inside, I was already writing the final scene. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying their voices in my head. Not the fake ones from dinner. The real ones, from that call I was never supposed to hear. She always folds. Guilt her into it. What else is she gonna do with her money? My pillow felt cold, my chest colder. At 2:07 a.m., I got out of bed and opened my laptop. Not for work, not for the spreadsheets they expected me to obsess over, but for something I hadn't dared build before. A new document. Title: Final Ledger. I started typing, line by line.
Rent.
Utilities, medical bills, textbook emergencies, unexpected fees. Please help. Madison's spa weekends, Caleb's trip to Vegas, Mom's $300 hair appointment, the $450 purse, the $900 TV. Every lie.
Exposed.
I scrolled back up and highlighted the top row. Total: $81,973.28. My breath caught. I stared at the number. I could have bought a home. I could have started a business. I could have fixed my own teeth. The ones I'd ignored for years while paying for Caleb's emergency dental surgery that, apparently, also came with bottle service and a private DJ. My hand hovered over the keyboard, trembling. But I didn't cry. Not anymore. At 3:13 a.m., I opened a private folder labeled Evidence. Inside, audio from the call, screenshots, bank receipts, Facebook photos, Instagram captions, timeline comparisons. Then, I opened a new message. Subject: FYI, this stops now. No one else would see it.
It was just for me.
A marker. A timestamp. The moment I stopped being their safety net and started being my own. By sunrise, I'd changed all my passwords, removed my cards from their subscriptions, blocked autopay from 3 platforms: Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime. Madison's little borrowings that showed up every month like clockwork.
Gone.
I walked to the mirror in my bathroom, looked myself dead in the eyes. And for the first time in 5 years, I didn't see exhaustion. I saw someone coming back to life. Later that morning, I called the electric company, asked a simple question. Am I listed on this account? The answer?
No, ma'am.
Just a card ending in 2278 is on file.
Mine.
Of course. I asked them to remove it. They sounded surprised. I wasn't. At noon, I sat at my kitchen table, sipping coffee, watching texts roll in. Madison: Hey, the utility bill bounced.
Weird. Can you check?
Mom: Landlord's upset. The rent's late. You okay? Caleb: Don't forget tuition's due. I didn't answer.
Not yet.
I just stared at the screen and let their silence shatter under the weight of mine. I was done feeding the mouths that mocked me, done bleeding for people who never once offered me a bandage, and they didn't even know what was coming next. But they would.
Soon.
The knock came just after 6 p.m. Not frantic, not angry, just soft, like someone wasn't sure they were welcome anymore. I opened the door slowly, already knowing who it was. Madison stood there in a beige coat, her hair perfectly curled, makeup done. She looked polished,
composed.
The kind of look you wear when you're trying to appear apologetic, but not too apologetic. Hey, she said, voice light. Can we talk? I stepped aside without saying a word. She walked in like she still owned space in my life. But this time, the silence between us wasn't nervous or guilty. It was mine. I controlled the air now. She sat on the edge of my couch, hands folded in her lap, like she was auditioning for sympathy. She began, faltering. I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. I sat across from her, calm. No rage. No screaming. Just that unbearable clarity that only comes after you've stopped begging to be heard. I pulled out a thick file folder from the coffee table and set it in front of her. Bank statements, call transcripts, screenshots, photos, everything. She didn't reach for it. She just stared at it like it was about to bite. I'm not here to argue, I said, voice steady. I just want you to see all the times you said you couldn't breathe financially while sipping mimosas in resort pools. Madison blinked. Those were gifts. Friends treated me. Spa charges billed to the card tied to my name? I asked. Was that a friend, too? Her mouth opened, then closed. No answer. I heard you, I added. On that call. Every word. The laughs. The jokes. The way you talked about me like I was stupid. Madison's face crumpled for a second. I didn't mean it. You said it. I watched her eyes flick toward the door, like she wanted to run. But she didn't. Instead, she said what I'd always hoped to hear. I'm sorry. Except this time, it didn't land. Not like it used to. I leaned back and opened a drawer from the side table. Pulled out an envelope. Sealed. Handwritten. She frowned. What's that? It's the letter I wrote to you 4 years ago, I said. The night I skipped dinner because you told me it was just family and I didn't count. She looked away. I never sent it, I continued, laying it between us. I didn't need your apology back then. I needed mine. So, I wrote it to myself. Madison picked it up slowly, then set it back down like it was too heavy. You weren't always like this, she whispered.
No, I said.
I used to bend until I cracked. We sat in silence for a long time. And then, quietly, I said what she wasn't expecting. I didn't come back to destroy you. Madison's eyes lifted to mine. I came back to stop hiding from who I am. She didn't cry.
She didn't beg.
She just nodded once, slowly, like something deep inside her had finally broken open. And I let her leave without another word. The sun had already dipped low when I walked the edge of my childhood driveway, the cracks more visible than I remembered. I paused at the front steps. The house looked the same, sturdy, neat, polished for appearances. But now I knew how hollow it really was. Inside, they were waiting. My mother at the head of the dining table, arms crossed like she was preparing for war. Caleb beside her, tapping his phone, not even bothering to hide his boredom. Madison sat farthest from me, eyes fixed on her lap. They had called me here. One last attempt, I assumed. I didn't bring the folder this time. I didn't need proof anymore. The silence that followed me into the room was proof enough. Sit, my mother said, like it was still her house. Her rules. I didn't. I'm not staying long, I said calmly. Her expression tightened. Daphne, you've made your point. I don't think I have, I replied. Because if I had, you wouldn't still be trying to guilt me into saving you again. Caleb scoffed. You're really gonna let us get evicted? No, I said, tilting my head. I'm going to let the truth run its course. And if that ends with you losing this house, well, that was your choice, not mine. This is your family, my mother snapped. This name means something. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You're right. The name used to mean something. Until you taught me that loyalty only goes one way here. She stood then, fire rising behind her eyes. You will never have my name, she spat. Not after this. And there it was. The final nail. The last wall between us, crumbling. I took a breath. I built one of my own, I said. And it's worth more than yours now. Her mouth opened in shock, but I didn't wait for a reply. I turned and walked toward the door, each step lighter than the last. No performance. No tears. Just finality. By the time I got back to my apartment, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Texts, missed calls, emails from reporters I didn't even recognize. I clicked the first headline. Local investor revealed as anonymous family benefactor. Turns out to be disowned daughter. I scrolled through the photos, me stepping out of that house, calm and composed. Them inside, stunned and exposed. Another headline. ATM with a pulse? Turns out she owned the bank. Public sympathy poured in faster than I could read it. Strangers praising my strength. Others share their own family betrayals. It didn't fix anything, but it felt like something cracked open in the universe. They wrote me off years ago, and I rewrote the story. Now the world knew exactly who I was. It was strange hearing the knock on my door like that. Not rushed, not angry, just slow, deliberate. I already knew who it was. I opened it to find her standing there, clutching a beige handbag I'd bought her 3 birthdays ago. My mother. She looked smaller somehow. The sweater she wore hung off her shoulders like it didn't fit anymore. Or maybe she didn't fit in the story she used to control. Can we talk? She asked, voice lower than I'd ever heard it. I didn't step aside. Not yet. I don't want an apology if it's only coming because you lost something, I said. She nodded, eyes glinting. You're right. But I'm here anyway. I let her in. She stood in my living room like it was a foreign country, taking in the photos on the wall, the sunflowers in the vase, the small bookshelf with real joy tucked between every spine. Her mouth parted slightly when she saw the framed certificate for my promotion. "Senior VP," she whispered, like saying it out loud made it more real. I said nothing. I waited. Finally, she turned to me. I was scared. I blinked. Of what?
Me?
Of losing control, she admitted, choking on the words. Of being seen for who I really was. You were everything I couldn't be. And instead of loving that, I tried to erase it. My throat tightened, but I didn't speak, she continued. I thought if I could keep you close through guilt, I wouldn't lose you completely. You didn't keep me close, I replied quietly. You broke me apart piece by piece and called it love. Tears slipped down her cheeks, then real ones. Or they looked real. I didn't know anymore. I'm sorry, she said, her voice trembling. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I wanted you to hear it. I stood still for a moment, then walked to the drawer beside my couch. I pulled out a folded envelope, worn at the edges. The ink faded in places. I handed it to her. I wrote this when I was 19, I said. It was the apology I knew I'd never get, so I gave it to myself. She opened it slowly, her hands shaking. As her eyes moved across the paper, she crumbled a little, like someone finally realizing the weight of what they'd done. She pressed the letter to her chest like it might warm something long frozen. I watched her. The woman who once called me selfish, who taught my siblings how to manipulate me, who sat silent while they mocked me over dinner tables I paid for. Now, she stood in my home, alone, humbled, and unsure of who I was anymore. I didn't come back to destroy you, I told her. I came back to stop hiding from who I am. She nodded through her tears. I walked her to the door. No promises were made. No embrace was exchanged, just silence. But this time, it was mine. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of birds. Not buzzing phones or overdue calls or guilt stitched into my chest. Just light.
Air. Peace.
I made coffee slowly, without multitasking. No background calculations. No running budget in my head. Just the smell of fresh brew and the sun warming the edge of my kitchen counter. I sat by the window, the same window I used to stare out of during long nights wondering if love was supposed to hurt this much. Now, it just looked like home. Later that day, I drove to the house I once thought of as mine, the one I paid for, but was never welcomed into. I didn't park in the driveway. I didn't knock. I just stood on the sidewalk across the street, looking at it one last time. The curtains were drawn now. The porch plants wilted. Maybe they hadn't figured out how to live without me yet. Maybe they never would. But I wasn't there for them. I reached into my bag and pulled out a small box. Inside was the key I'd held onto for years. I crossed the street slowly, like the air itself had thickened. I placed the box carefully on the porch, tucked behind the flower pot that once held sunflowers but now sat dry and empty, like so many things in that house. I didn't need to leave a note. The silence was enough. Back in my car, I didn't look back. Not once. That night, I hosted a small dinner at my apartment. Just 6 people. My people. The ones who showed up when it mattered, not just when the bills were due. We laughed over pasta, poured wine into mismatched glasses, passed plates and stories. No one asked for anything but presents. No one needed saving. After they left, I stood on the balcony, wrapped in a sweater that wasn't designer, but fit just right. The city stretched before me, blinking and alive. Somewhere out there, my family continued, without my money. Without my silence, without me, and I was okay with that. I picked up my journal and wrote the words slowly, like a promise. They rejected me. They forgot me. But I didn't come back to hurt them. I came back to show the girl they erased that she was never the problem. Then I wrote one last line, the truest one yet. I'm not their daughter anymore. I'm finally mine. And with that, I closed the book and opened a brand new chapter.